Welcome back to Hot Takes and Deep Dives, and I am here with, shall we say, two it girls from the 90s. They are exes, they are best friends, as you do. They are returning guest Elizabeth Ziff.
Hello.
Hello, from Betty, from the L Word. We'll spare you this time with some of the L Word stuff.
No, I'll talk about whatever you want, honey. I like Jess. Jess is okay by me.
So we have returning guest Elizabeth Ziff, and we have Miss Maggie Moore.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Jess.
I'm very excited about this.
I'm Maggie's biggest fan, just FYI. Always have been.
You texted me that exact statement the other day.
I actually am, right?
Yeah.
I am your biggest fan.
And
Although you have many, many of them, but
And she made me love my boobs.
I did. Yeah. As you told my ex-girlfriend's father.
Yeah, he just stared at me.
Out of nowhere.
Well, my family's a little waspy, so we didn't talk about boobs or anything else. That's true. She helped me embrace my boobs. And
what was the issue?
Oh, she just loved them because they're.
I think a nice rack belongs to the world. I really do. I think they should be shown. I think a lot of women are taught to hide them, and they develop like a little slouch because they are hiding their boobs because people stare at them. But I really do believe that let their freak flag fly.
She was all about the cleavage and body positivity, and it's the first person who really, as a performer, I was not afraid to show cleavage or embrace the boob. Sorry.
I mean, I could really politicize this and ask like how you feel about all these women who are transitioning and like there's so many people getting top surgery, but I don't want to make it about that. Like we can do that offline, but that is where my mind is going.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's generational, I guess.
So this is what I want to get into. For quick context, Betty is yourself, your sister Amy, and your best friend Allison. You guys did the music for the L Word. The band has now been together for over 35 years, but at this point, you're living in New York, Maggie is living in Toronto. What is the year of your fateful meeting in Toronto?
89.
She says 89, I say 90. It was winter, it was around the holidays.
Mm-hmm. And we went up to Canada to play because Jane Siberry invited us to go up there, who we'd become friendly with because we'd opened for her, and she was a genius.
Amazing Canadian recording artist.
Just amazing.
I loved as well.
And we went to the Cameron, which is a little nightclub in downtown Toronto, the night before our gig there. And lo and behold, Miss Maggie Moore was doing a show.
And at this time, you were like a lounge singer.
Yes. So I was writing my own songs, but as part of a show called Quiet Please, There's a Lady on Stage, which is a title taken from a Peter Allen song, I believe. I think you walked in when my song was on, or you were in the back. It was a very tiny club, you have to imagine, one of the coolest places on Queen Street West. And I was really, really happy to be on the bill. And it was basically piano and a singer. So it felt like a lounge act, yes.
Anyway, so we walked in, and it's one of those places where you walk in and the stage is right there. So everybody looks and sees who's walking in. So we walked in, sat down, me, Amy, and Allison. And this gorgeous woman was on stage. I mean, stunning. And I'm like, who is this? And we came with two other friends. And so they took us. We had met them at the Michigan Women's Music Festival years before that. And then Wookie says to me, oh, that's Maggie Moore. She's gay. I was like, what? And I was single too. And then Maggie starts singing this song, and I think it was what was the name of the song?
Kindness overflow.
I think it's gonna rain today. But if you know the lyrics of the song, it is about human kindness, which is interesting. And she's singing this song. Everybody's enraptured, and this woman who's obviously homeless and nuts runs through the door screaming, Lily's here! Lily's here! And in New York, we're hardcore New Yorkers, so I'm thinking like, get her the fuck, and
who was this person?
But wait, so we're thinking, if this happened in New York, they'd drag her out, throw her in the street, basically. So Maggie stops the song, and this woman is obviously very agitated and upset. And Maggie puts her arm around the lady, says, Lily, why don't you sit and listen to the song? So she calms her down. Lily sits on the side of the stage, and Maggie finishes the song. And it was one of the kindest, most beautiful, natural. Like it was a naturally human thing, given by somebody who's a performer who obviously was not a narcissist. And the three of us just looked at each other and said, who the fuck is this person? It was just clearly amazing.
You know, in my memory of that, I hadn't met these women at the back of the room. I was performing. My memory of that is very clear too, that I felt that the audience wanted to be protective for me. And I was in the middle of it, and it was like an interruption, like this, you know, homeless person comes in and they're kind of raving at me. And it was very organic. It was exactly what I felt one should do, which is help somebody who's having a hard time. And she wanted to be part of things. So I just made her part of things. And so that's what her version was of that. And then I finished the song, and later on after the show, we met through these mutual friends. And I didn't know who these people were because it was a pretty close-knit musical community, and I knew a lot of people. It was a small room. And then I knew these people were not from Toronto. Not at all. Especially Allison, who's this Amazon beautiful guy. Like she stood out in a crowd. And then I met you and your sister. And then as it turns out, the next night I was out with my friend and we were looking for something to do. We went and we said, let's just go to the Cameron. And there was Betty performing. And it was, I think I saw them last night at the show. And then that's when we met each other afterwards, and, you know, essentially.
Well, we went to a party at Lorraine's house after the show. It was a really small party. We were all sitting around, and I remember Amy and I were both like, "Oh my God, that girl!" And so
Amy, your sister,
yeah, and both of us were single, and I was like, whatever, you can have her. You know what I mean? It was just one of those gross moments that we could have been two guys from Jersey discussing some really beautiful girl. And then I just walked away. And then we started playing charades. And Maggie got up. You tell the rest of the story.
Yeah, so we were, again, I was pretty excited to be there because they were all new friends and new people, and they're musicians from New York. You know, you're very impressed with that, especially at that, you know, age. So we were playing charades, and it was 5 words song. And I was doing the charades. I was giving the clues. And she just goes, "You light up my life." And I went, boom. And it was her. So it was like this momentous thing where she got it without even thinking, without even blinking. And of course, the undertone of that is, "You light up my life."
But right, like a moment of connection.
A moment of connection. And then
but
we ended
like
up lighting each
connection.
other's life up for
so what
55
was
years.
So what was your first impression of Elizabeth?
Oh, beautiful, of course, and fun, and she was sexy as shit. And she came up to me and the pheromones were just flying out, you know, so, but funny, like we were laughing. We went to some show at this.
We laughed our ass
like the kind
off.
of laughing you're not supposed to laugh in church kind of laughing, where there was a very serious cellist on stage, and we went to a rock concert to see this. And everybody was just like enthralled with this performance.
Honey, it was a harpist.
It was a harpist.
A harpist.
Oh, it was a harpist.
And my sister
and
was like, really into
we're like,
it.
Bring, bring, bring. And we're like this. Yeah. And I think it's because we were just titillated about hanging out with each other. But there was something really, really funny that we couldn't control.
So how did you start dating? If you guys are living in New York and you're in Toronto, was it like a long distance?
We had a 12-hour fuck fest the first time we met. Okay. Listening to Judy Garland live at Carnegie Hall.
Very gay.
Need we say more? One of the things that I noticed when I went into her apartment, which is so cool.
Yeah,
it was so cool. It was such a cool apartment. I went to the refrigerator and she had that iconic picture of Barbra Streisand and Judy Garland, you know, holding hands
clutching
when
hands.
They're singing. That was it for me.
Black and white photo.
Yeah. And she had a poster of Kim Basinger in her bathroom. But really nice. I'd never met a girl who was a fag like me. You know, Amy and Allison has aspects of that, but she, in another life, she would have been a drag queen who was really a woman. I wasn't that, but we really related on that level. And the rest is history. I mean, we started sending stuff back and forth. I sent a tape to her. Right? I made a mixtape.
Yes.
Mary Brown.
Yeah.
I don't know why I called you Mary Brown.
Because you said after we had sex, you said, "What's your name again?" And I said, "Mary Brown."
So how do you come to New York?
Well, I visited. She said, "I remember your van," and next morning after, we'd gotten together, and
all
it was
all night.
All night. It was really a snowstorm, and her bandmates, Amy and Allison, were furious at her for being late because she'd been hanging out, drinking, and
Furious.
And they were just so furious they didn't know. I don't think they knew where you were, actually.
They didn't. I didn't tell them.
No, in those
I
days
just
there weren't
disappeared.
cell phones. She disappeared, and she's like, "Oh my God, there's a snowstorm." They had to drive back to New York from Toronto, and they had some gig or something they had to get to. And she says, "Well, if you ever want to come to New York, look me up," kind of thing. And I said, "Well, my birthday's in January." And I flew on my own for my birthday to visit her. And we kept in touch through that.
Cute.
Yeah, it was really cute. And then after that, it was long distance. And then the fateful thing happened. So there was a party. Remember the fly on the wall?
I'll never forget it.
Yeah. There was a party for Amy's birthday.
I think it was Allison's birthday. We had infamous parties when the three of us lived on 2nd Avenue. I mean, they were crazy ass parties. Sort of like the party that we had the other night for Allison's birthday. More drugs. But really fun and just New Yorky, all different performers. And Maggie couldn't be there to come to the party. At this point, we were pretty, we were full on
Connected.
dating.
Yeah, we were dating long distance.
She sent me this thing, this giant fly, so she could be a fly on the wall at the party.
And it stuck on the wall. It had a suction cup. And so everybody would go by like, "What's that?"
I was like, "It's Maggie."
Giant fly on the wall. That's Maggie. Anyway, that's the kind of humor we had. Mm-hmm. Who does that, by the way? So one day I called her up and said, "You're not going to believe this. I got my green card in the lottery." Because when I was in theater school in Toronto, a guy who I knew in my class said, "Oh, we should apply for this in the newspaper, the Toronto Star." I was like, "Oh yeah, on a lark, I will." Turns out I got a green card, and it took me about 6 months to immigrate to New York.
Wait,
lottery.
they give green cards
had a
in
lottery.
the lottery?
Back then.
Not
And-
anymore.
Yeah, so it was like it was a total gift from the universe. Which
Was your family all in Toronto?
oh yeah, they still are. So this would be the first.
How old are you at this time?
I'm like 25.
And they were okay with you like moving to
There was no holding her back. Are you kidding? She
Yeah.
was a star there.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a lot of things there was nothing holding me back. I was old enough. My parents were really great about it, actually. And I'd actually done a play in New York prior to this and flew in for that play. And I had played every club in Toronto at this point. And it was kind of like, why wouldn't I? So she got us, Elizabeth hooked me up with my band at the time to play CBGBs. And so the infamous CBGB. So my first gig in New York,
Grossest bathroom in the world
Yeah.
ever.
yeah, but famous.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So my first gig, so I brought the rest of the band was men, and they were just fun, great guys. I love them. We were together for a couple of years, and we recorded in a basement, and we were sort of up and coming. So that's when I went full time into just being a solo performer, and did more in New York like that.
So you moved to New York. You're already in New York. Where were you guys hanging out?
I did
like
a show
that-
at the Duplex, and I did my basic drag. It was like doing drag. I was a torch singing comedian, and then I would do 88s. You guys were doing the ballroom at the time.
Yeah.
And
Bowery
yeah,
Ballroom.
And
Oh, it's just called the
Yeah,
Ballroom?
it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
We did play the Bowery a couple times. We took you out to LA to play with us.
Yeah.
Once you started opening for us and stuff,
and do these shows, and I would open for Betty at the Bottom Line. I did that a couple
you
times.
did?
Yes.
I don't remember that at all.
Yep, I remember very
Wow, good
clearly.
for us.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, a couple times I opened
Well,
it.
also you were fantastic. And
you.
still are. I'm your biggest fan.
I know.
Yes, so I heard you sing Diamonds Are
Forever.
Diamonds Are
Diamonds Are Forever at Elizabeth's best friend, Allison, one of the members of Betty. It was her birthday party, and you got up and sang. And so I got to hear you sing firsthand. And it was amazing. I came up to you afterwards, and I was like, I want to go all the way with this. I hear all the stories. So when I interviewed Elizabeth back in January, you began to talk about Café Tabac, which really was the nexus of lesbian chic in the 90s. And Two things about the lore of Café Tabac. Was in the East Village on 9th Street between 2nd and 3rd. Number one, Wanda Acosta, who ran the Sunday nights there, she's working on a documentary. There is a whole Instagram account, Café Tabac Film, where you can follow what she's doing. Separate from that, there's an oral history online. It's an article. The title is Where Kate Moss Met Johnny Depp. And they interview a lot of the players. So Kelly Catrone, AJ Benza, who was a big gossip columnist at the time. There's a sample menu where cocaine is listed as a dessert.
No.
Which I thought was very funny.
Well, it was Sundays at Café Tabac. That was the lesbian night. That's
Yes.
why. Café Tabac was hip, but Sundays were incredible. And
Yes.
they were, it really was the beginning of the whole lipstick lesbian thing that we were involved in for sure.
Absolutely.
And then Maggie started her own party called Industria. At Industria,
But
right?
we should talk about Café Tabac for a sec, because it's like this salon, like this smoky, when you could smoke in bars, like duplex, you go to
People
the
smoked
second
weed,
floor.
too.
Everything.
It was
and
beautiful.
You go up there and it was always packed on Sundays, but it was still a lounge. And that lounge culture, I don't know if it existed anywhere else. You always stood up at a bar. This was where you could sit back and kind of.
This is before
see
Buddha Bar and all
cruise.
that.
Yeah, it was a real, and people would have their champagne. It was just.
It was classy. It was sexy. It was
dressed
AF, and it was very diverse.
Yeah, you
extremely
were
diverse.
talking about the fact that people would really dress up for it and like show up.
They
in
showed
a certain
up,
way.
Yeah.
and people, because it was before cell phones and things like that. Famous people would go there because they could, and they wouldn't be outed. It was like nobody gave a crap. They were just happy that you were there, and that was in part Sherry's music, which was amazing.
Was she the DJ?
She was
Yeah.
the DJ, and Jack, who
Yeah,
was the
the
bartender,
bartender.
and he was amazing too. And then Wanda, who was really the hostess, who made everybody comfortable. It was just such a scene, and you felt special being there, and you felt
like you were part of something, and it was definitely part of the culture and the zeitgeist of the time. There was no question that you felt comfortable, proud, excited to be a lesbian there, because this was our club, and it was damn sexy. You know, it really was.
People were beautiful and interesting and artistic, and
Very New York.
yeah.
Is the reason why a place like that closed because everything became like VIP service and like bottle service? Because like
It wasn't there. It was too small for that.
No, but I'm saying like these places, like what you're describing, they really would only last for like 2 or 3 years because the restaurant and club industry changed at that time to all like selling these high priced like
Well, but
VIP like tables.
But it's also like a good television show. You should only have 3 seasons, really. Honestly, after 3 seasons, you start jumping the shark, and you got to keep it fresh. And the 3 of them started another club.
What was the other club?
Was it
before
Starlight?
No, it was before Starlight. It was
Well,
Wonder Bar.
Wonder Bar.
I
Wonder
remember
Bar.
Wonder Bar.
Yeah. So it was Wonder Bar, and that catered to the lesbians too, but it also catered mostly, I think, to gay men.
Yes.
Yeah. But the lesbian thing came back when she opened Starlight.
I used to go to the very first bar I ever went to was Meow Mix.
Okay, we went there.
Oh yeah, we did. We
Did you
played there.
play? Did you play there?
Oh, Betty played there a lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
but also it was fun. It was very rock and roll. The music was great.
I
And-
remember being so confused. I remember this vividly, going in there, and I had the impression, and truly, if I'm being like very, very honest, really my only reference had to be from the movie Chasing Amy. It had to be. Like, I'm pretty sure. And then like whatever whatever was on the internet at that time. And so
I think you probably went there towards the tail end.
well, yeah, I had to have been, I was like living here, I guess. I was like probably like a freshman in college, and I just went. So that would have been like 2000.
Yeah, what a
we
movie
still
to
together then?
reference.
No, I know. No, I actually, you know what's hilarious? I have referenced it so many times on this show.
Yeah.
And one time my friends and I, we ranked our our top 5 like gay movies, or like the movies that made us gay. And then I had like a special category where I listed all like my problematic faves. And I don't care that it's whatever. Like, I don't care. I still love it.
You still
Everyone
love it.
go fuck themselves. I don't care. It's politically, like, I don't care. It still
Got it.
moves me. Like, I like watched it in like recent history.
Did you
there
ever
go.
watch The Incredible Two Adventures of Two Girls in Love?
Yes, a long time. It's
Watch
not
it. You should
fresh.
rewatch it. It really stands the test of time, and Maggie's in it. Our music's in it, and my first girlfriend directed it.
It's interesting you bring up Incredibly True Adventures of Two Girls in Love, because you've told me that the movie, was that your first girlfriend?
Yeah, Marie Magenti. She's still a great friend.
She wrote and directed that film. And you told me that it's Laurel Holloman's character loosely based on you.
It's based on our relationship because we met in D.C. when she was on hiatus she was going to Smith College at the time, and I worked at a record store. And we met. And there's verbatim things that we said to each other that's actually in the movie. And it's fun. It's a great movie. It's actually spawned 2 stars from it.
Oh, yeah. Nicole Ari Parker and, of course, Laurel Holloman.
Maggie was in it as well, and that was fun.
What did you sing in the movie?
I played Wendy, the trashy
Girlfriend.
girlfriend, you know.
I have to do a rewatch.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
definitely
you will.
do. You can
You'll be
watch
like,
it
"Oh,
now.
her."
They did it. They redid it. They refurbished it or whatever, and it's
And they
really great.
screened it at like Village
Yeah.
East Cinema. Yeah.
It does stand the test of time. It was great. There was a lot of smoking in it. I smoked.
Well, let me ask you, when you were working on the L Word, did you ever mention to Laurel Holloman that, like, by the way, the
That's the
character?
first thing we said to each other.
Oh, that's fun. And was she like?
No, she was totally into it. That she and Marie are still good friends. I'm friends with Laurel.
But she must have thought that was like funny.
We both thought it was funny. You have to remember, by the time the L Word came around, that was years later.
No, I know.
Yeah,
but still, it's
no.
just funny.
It was definitely a connection.
But we were talking about Meow Mix. So Starlight, I used to go. That was like I was fully like in my 20s and an adult. And you said that you put that they filmed something there as well.
Yeah, I put it on the L Word because I love Wanda, and I thought it was the place that Bet would have actually gone if she came to New York. So why wouldn't she go to Starlight?
Right.
It made sense for her to go to Starlight, and it was nice to be able to give those kind of props to Wanda because she's been such a part. She's really
She's an icon.
She's an
in
icon.
lesbian culture.
Yeah, she really is,
Wanda
and
Cherry.
people should know that because she did create a whole lesbian culture.
Yeah.
And we stand, the kids now stand on her shoulders and our shoulders too, because and your parties were infamous.
Yeah.
Thousands
Yeah.
and
In the
thousands
90s.
of people.
So
Yeah.
I want to talk about this. So it was called Industria.
Yeah, Industria Super Studios.
Industria.
So I would do a theme. Start off with doing gay pride parties, and then with Chip Duckett, we did a massive benefit party over the anniversary of Stonewall back then.
So you were a party promoter.
Yeah, I was the producer because I promoted my own parties at this venue, Industria Super Studios, and that's on Jane Street. And
It's very exclusive.
Very
It's
exclusive.
very exclusive.
Is it kind of where
photography studio, basically.
Yes. It's kind of like where Barbudo
it's
is
Barbudo.
around that. Okay.
That is where Barbudo. And so that upstairs of there's a big, almost like warehouse, high-end photography studio, thousands of square feet. So we would take over both floors, and the restaurant would help supply the booze, and then we would use the staff of Industria, and it was so fantastic. I can't tell you. I got to basically create a theme for every party I did. So I did It Girl, Polka Dot Girl, Vegas Girl,
I wrote the song "It Girl" for that party.
Charlie's Angels. I mean, this was before the movie came out. I mean, and then we
How
would just go
often
nuts.
were the parties?
At first, they were monthly, and then the neighborhood complained, so we had to go annual. But I did an annual gay pride party for 5 years straight, and they were at Industria, and then the final
There
party
were thousands.
was at
I'd
the
say
Kit Kat Club.
how many people? Like thousands.
Yeah, thousands.
Thousands
it would
of
be
women.
well over. It would always have 1,000 people.
How did you? I want to go back to It Girl. Like, put a pin in that. I want to go back to that. This is like around like 95.
Yeah.
So mailing lists, meaning like email lists, businesses were built on the idea of like, you got to get people's emails. This was like in its infancy. And then it would explode in the very early 2000s. I just know because I work in tech. Like, business would live or die whether you had like a decent mailing list. People would buy other people's mailing
Exactly.
lists.
I don't remember you being
No, I'll
No,
tell
but
you.
so I want to.
You want to know how? Well, so I had a collaboration with Out Magazine. So I had their mailing list. So they gave me sponsorship.
But these weren't emails; these were physical addresses.
These were physical postcards
Physical
that
mails.
got people. So I would get their labels. So I developed a flyer, and it took me a long time to do these flyers because they were the one thing that I had, and they were always fun, always comedic, and they'd always.
Would you draw them?
No, they
No, they're
were.
photos.
I would. You want to know what I did? I went to the New York Library and got still images that I could use, and I made slides from those, and then I projected slides in this giant photo studio. So I would have everything done on kind of a grassroots lo-fi, but it all freaking worked. In the poster, if it was, for example, Planet Girl, and it had a woman. There was a 1950s movie where she's standing on top of a flying saucer. And then on the back, I would have all the info. Anyway, the label would go on there and it would go out to hundreds of lesbians on their list. So they got sponsorship.
Out Magazine.
Out Magazine. And then I'd pay women to go stand outside the clubs and pass out flyers. And then word of mouth really spread because it was a very different party. It was very unique. So lots of women would come.
Were these specific lesbian parties?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because no, I ask because Out Magazine originally it was half men, half women, gay men, and then half lesbian, like run.
Yeah, so
Sarah Pettit was a good friend of ours, and she was one of the founders.
Sarah Pettit, yeah.
But it changed hands, and then it became really like you look at Out Magazine. It's like a gay man.
Yeah, it did change hands when she got fired.
Yeah, overnight.
So overnight, and it was devastating to someone who built the magazine with a lot of people we know, and it was like it was a change of the guard, you know. But
It's nice that you were working. It seemed like you were working together.
We were, yeah. All of that built, but I love the question because it's a part of our time that there was no real way to get the word out, and once the word was out, like Café Tabac, it was out. What's the hot party? And there were many parties going on. I remember it's Gay Pride. There's lots of shows. We knew all the comedians. So I would have this massive guest list, and I would hire all the staff and coat check and all of that. And I got to tell you, it goes down for me as the best. And I wanted to quit while I was at the top, so I did it for 5 years. And when the party moved from Industria, and we could no longer do it because of the community and labor and all that stuff, it was like, okay, I'm going to do one more party. And I did a cabaret themed one at the Kit Kat Club, and this was when Alan Cumming was doing the show there. So I convinced them somehow.
Wait, you did it in the theater?
In the theater of Kit Kat Club, I did a cabaret show for lesbians in the hottest club in New York. It's like, just
when you
went
don't
for it.
know, you just do it.
You just do it. I went to them. I called them. I said, "This is for Gay Pride. I need to rent the space." They gave it to me for a song because I don't know. I just
But
had a
also,
way
you
of
have to remember,
making
it
it
was
happen.
before the gay community was bought. Really, honestly, it was at the inception of us really getting our freedom through parties and
fundraisers.
Yeah.
Things. It was before it was so commercialized. Before, you want to do a gay party? It'll cost you $20,000 to rent our space. It was like, you want to do a gay party? We want to support this.
Yes, that's
we
true.
want to support this. And it was much different. It was before Chase Bank sponsored Gay Pride Parade. It was when you actually sort of put your job on the line when you marched in the Gay Pride Parade.
Well, this actually is extremely relevant because I know how Betty started. You've been doing prides since you were the early days in DC, and you've talked
Early
about
80s.
early 80s, and kind of describe that like the prides, they'd be like hid like in a bad neighborhood.
They were more hidden away. Like a lot of the early gay bars were in bad neighborhoods, and even in DC, in
Clit
Toronto,
Club,
right?
when you think about it, Clit Club existed in the meatpacking district, and that was where Florent, where the 24-hour
Yes.
diner, was, and that's where
That's where we would all go.
That's where we would all
afterward.
go, and then you would go to the Clit Club. It would be jammed. It was such a fire hazard.
I know.
So you
But
think about it.
people didn't go by the rules.
Yeah.
There weren't that many. There were no rules because we were inventing them. We were creating them. And it was a really exciting time to be in the LGBTQ community. It really was. Not that it's not now, but it's not.
And not
Well,
just-
that's why I feel that I was born in the wrong era. Like for sure. Like I definitely feel like, I mean, I was born in 82, and I really wish that I had been born probably in like if I had to like literally pick the year I was born, it would probably be like 69 or 70.
Excellent.
But let me tell you about being gay before it was accepted, even though it's very difficult now still, honestly, for a lot of people. I walked down the street in D.C. with my girlfriend holding hands, Maria, and we were both punched in the face, just walking down the street holding hands. So it wasn't all fun and games. We fought a lot, and we fought for our rights. And we fought for gay marriage.
But I feel that I would, I mean, and I was part of that. I mean, I was part of Prop 8. Like, I was like an activist in my own right through the stuff that I, just through what I lived through. Actually, somebody had asked me this during my promotion of Finding Fire Island. Somebody had messaged me saying, like, what would you have done if you were born in another era? And I said, well, for sure, I would have been part of ACT UP. I probably would have been like living in Chicago. Like, that really would have been my life. I think.
It was Maria's life. Maria was one of the founding members of ACT UP, and so was John Canale and a lot of our friends. I was on the road a lot. We did as much as we could, but you have to remember that so many people were dying.
Well, Marsha P. Johnson, when I moved to New York, shortly thereafter was killed. And there was the posters. I remember the posters. And again, we talk about how exciting it was to be part of this community that had, honestly, with AIDS had come together in such a remarkable way and was mourning. And we needed to have these gathering spaces and needed to have community more than ever.
And you have to remember that women, especially lesbians, were the buddies of
gay men
that had AIDS. So the buddy, it was literally called buddies, not just buddies. Bring food and stay with them. And so that's really when the gay community really solidified, when women and men came together, because there was a big crisis and we tried to help each other.
But I do think we have, as lesbians, have to be very conscious of our stories and helping them not disappear, because that's always what happened. So we have to look at it as we always have, and this is why you're doing this podcast, I'm sure, is to remember the culture that existed, which has disappeared. I don't really think that party would exist today, and I'm sad to say it.
What do you think has taken its place? Like,
social media.
Yeah.
Social media has taken the place of being face to face with a lot of people.
There are parties. Like, if you think of like House of Yes, like those are huge parties in a warehouse that have themes. They're not necessarily they're not lesbian parties, but they are inherently kind of queer. I
would agree with that for sure.
Yeah, and I think there's sexy
there's
things
smaller
going
clubs
on for
that could be mixed clubs and gay clubs, but it's a really interesting question. And again, we can't repeat what happened in the 90s. It was such a special time before social media, but for sure that's impacted things. I mean, thank God we still have places like Cubbyhole and Henrietta Hudson are like the two places on this giant city that we can call lesbian bars.
What was the highlight of your Industria career?
Wow. Ooh, the highlight of the Industria years. It's so hard because I loved all the parties. They were so specific. Well, B-Movie Girl, I think, was pretty great. And It Girl, where I had this giant, when you came up
the spanking party was pretty
the
brilliant.
Spanking party was insane.
What was that?
It was pretty great.
What was it?
I must say.
Elizabeth, describe it.
Well, I mean, who the fuck remembers? Because honestly, it was a long time ago, and also we were high and drunk, and everybody was, but not in a gross way, just in a way just high on what was happening. Usually stoned. I made the music in the lounge.
I found that book that had pictures from 100 years ago of women being spanked, and it was just photographs that were at the time pornographic.
Women spanking each other.
Yes, they were women spanking each other. So I took that theme and I called it a spanking at Industria. And so it was. I remember the card. It was purple mauve, and it was like this, the color of your shirt.
Hilarious and fun.
And yes, it was hilarious. And so when you came in, I was dressed as a school teacher with my hair topped off, glasses, a ruler in my hand. And
by the way, this is like my fantasy.
And hot pants. And hot pants. And
it's a lot of people's fantasy. That's why I remember this party.
And then I got an artist to create like a carnival cutout where you could take your picture and you pop your head in the wood thing and you're getting spanked. Mm-hmm. So there were Polaroid shots that you could get. And then it was just those images were projected up, and then your sexy lounge music, and it was just
my lounge music was great.
And so, what would you DJ the party on
I didn't DJ. I actually made a mixtape. I mean, we had DJ who was the DJ? What's her name?
Tony C.
Tony
She
C.
did all my parties.
She did the big room, but there was a really big, sexy lounge, and I made the music for that. And I have to say, I can't believe I don't have those cassettes still.
I might have a couple.
Really? 'Cause
And
they
also,
were
I always had go-go
amazing.
dancers, and it was just there were two giant rooms with images going, and it was a
It was
blast.
super, super fun. We were
And-
on high for days after that.
Oh yeah, and I
But I think
What? No, what were you going to say?
then I would go to an all-night diner and celebrate with a duffel bag of cash.
Yeah.
How much money would you make?
I'm not telling you exactly.
Well, give
I'm
it
not
like
telling-
roughly.
No, because
Why can't I know?
Because it doesn't compare to how much money people make now
Okay.
at these
No,
parties.
no, it
These
was-
parties are insanely. It was for that time. It was a lot specifically for her, but the amount of money that's made now is crazy.
I mean,
know?
you want to know how much it charged at the door? It was
Yeah.
like $10.
Well, we can. Well, I have the flyer
and a
like,
free drink
yeah.
before 11
I'm
o'clock.
gonna post the. Can I post their flyers online? Can
Yes,
I post
please.
those when I promote so people can see the image?
Yes.
I'll create a reel that it's going to be this conversation, and I'll throw up the
Oh,
images.
I'll-
You should
awesome.
post a picture of the two of us that was in Out magazine.
Yes,
Oh, that's
send it to
really-
me.
It's a really
That's
yeah,
a good one.
It's a really
That's
good photo.
Very much. That was our moment for Out Magazine because the magazine was so young at the time. I think we were in the first year of edition. Like that photograph appeared in their first year of publication, rather.
So the song "It Girl," you wrote that specifically for one of the themes.
I wrote it because of the theme, I think.
Yeah, you did.
It was inspired by one of the
Yeah.
parties.
Yeah, it was inspired by just the word "it girl," and I just started writing the song.
If you want it, come and get it. I know how much you do. If you work and if you're worthy, I just might give it to you. I am the it girl, and it can happen to you. It girl, I am the it girl, and it can happen to you.
And it came from there, but it didn't come to fruition, or it wasn't recorded until much later. And then it was recorded on Betty 3, and then it was in our off-Broadway show, Betty Rules, so it's on there.
And it's on the L Word soundtrack.
Yes, but it's on the L Word soundtrack from the Betty Rules soundtrack, so it's much faster than the original.
Oh,
The original
you
is slower.
recorded another time.
Well, Michael Greif directed it, and he wanted everything fast.
Mm-hmm.
It's so interesting. I talked to him about it a couple days ago, actually.
Michael Greif, director of Rent, and so
Hell's
many
Kitchen,
other things.
Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah,
I went to see Hell's Kitchen again, but
you would go on to perform "It Girl" live on the L Word. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just
Yeah, making
Bringing
a
it full
connection.
circle, isn't
Bringing
it?
it full circle. Yeah.
always bringing it back to
I'm
the
just
L
connected-
word.
Yeah, listen, all roads will lead.
She, of course.
You were on the L Word?
Yes.
Maggie's on the L word,
Yeah,
singing.
Singing. So I have been known in my career to do an Anne Margaret impression or two. And I actually built a little cottage industry doing her live. This goes back to my Toronto days. I wrote a song called Kitten with a Whip based on an Anne Margaret movie. And that just went on to become an Anne Margaret impression, and then I would do it. And then I did a show called Viva Las Vegas at the Cucaracha Theater, which no longer exists downtown.
Would never happen now because she didn't have the rights to the songs.
Yeah.
But we could
so-
do that then. You just did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we put it on as a late night show, and I had Julie Wheeler play Elvis Presley, and we just recreated the show, the movie, verbatim, and it was a blast.
It was brilliant, actually.
And
wow.
I got my first theatrical agent through that, and a lot of just a lot of cred because a lot of people came to see it.
So how are you on the L Word?
So her.
No, I don't mean how. I mean,
Yeah. So
what?
So I did my Anne Margaret impression, and Alan Cumming was on that episode where I was doing my shtick, my Anne Margaret shtick, and you hired.
You sang.
But what was the context?
Alan was doing in a club. Alan was working in a club, and I wanted there to be that duet because it was so iconic of Elvis Presley and Anne Margaret, and I wanted lesbians to sing it like she had done in her play. Mm-hmm. So we brought Maggie because hello, and then there was a girl in Toronto who was really good.
Yeah,
I forgot her
she
name.
was a Canadian.
Yvette?
You hired local talent, and
Yeah,
she was great.
She
Oh,
was
when you say
great.
Toronto, do you mean Vancouver?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I hired her in Vancouver, and of course, we ran it by everybody, and everybody was into it, and it was just really fun. It's just I forgot what episode it's in. He did a cabaret thing.
He did a cabaret night, and I was his friend on the show.
Yeah, you were his friend, and then you performed that song, and they recorded it at my studio in Vancouver, and then performed it on the show. It was really fun.
It was really fun.
Can I tell you my favorite fun fact about Industria?
Yeah, sure.
In 1992, that is where Madonna had the party for the sex book, where she was dressed as Little Bo Peep and had like the toy sheep.
Yes, it's very famous. So that was some of the cred that I could bring to the venue, because they told me Madonna had her party there. And for It Girl, coming back to it, that was my favorite party there, It Girl, because what I did
I'm going to play a little of the song. I'm going to insert the song under this.
Oh, good. Because that's where I hired limousines to park out front. So when the lesbians came to this party, they're like, there was a vibe of limousines being outside. And remember, that was big deal.
Before limousines were gross.
Before they were gross.
Cool.
Before they were gross.
Yeah.
And so then one of the thing was you could just get in a limousine and drive around. I just let people, because I hired them. Yeah. So then you could pull up to the party in a limousine. You could go around the block and pull up in a limousine and come out, and people would take your pictures, and they had photographers throughout. So it made the best part of it was women got dressed up for the parties. They felt glamorous. There was nothing like it at the time. Café Tabac was, I don't know if it was defunct by that time, but it didn't really replace it.
No, because it couldn't replace it.
It didn't replace it. It was like
it was an extension.
An extension of it, not in a lounge setting, but in a
scale.
giant party scale and a bigger scale.
No,
and
Wanda and
they would come to the party.
They came.
Yeah, that was also very supportive. They were always supportive of me doing it, and
still
I love them. They came to the parties. There was, it was always
there was a lot of support. Somehow there became this thing where women weren't supporting each other as much, and I don't know how that happened, because honestly, back in the day, we all really supported each other, went to each other's parties, we promoted, and I think it became much more competitive.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was money.
More money to be made.
Yeah, once people saw that there was money, because really your impetus was not the money. It's not Wanda's either.
No.
It was more of,
Fun.
We're going to have a great time, and we're going to be glamorous and make out and dance to great music and play pool. That was, the impetus was for fun and for adventure, creative. Yeah, it was a real creative time in New York too. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't about the Benjamins.
It wasn't even like trying to be on the scene. There was no, listen, I'm Canadian.
It wasn't performative at all.
No, I'm Canadian. All I wanted to do was the stuff that I found funny, that made me feel good, that my friends feel good, that make us laugh, that places we wanted to go. Create it for yourself. So that's how Viva Las Vegas came about. No one, was doing a parody like that. And it was very gay. It was part of the culture then. And it was it was a very queer cast and gender bending. So that really launched a lot of things for me in terms of being out there.
And that was the end of our relationship.
Wait, what? Wait, what did I just miss?
I'm not going there.
We were together for years.
No. But wait, what is Viva Las?
Well, Viva Las Vegas was the live version of the movie that we were talking about.
Okay.
Where I played Anne Margaret downtown.
The lesbian played.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So can we give it? Okay. Yeah. I guess the obvious question is why? So you were together during all of this?
Yeah.
Okay.
We were together for 7 years.
What kept you together? Was it basically all of this, being able to fuse the creativity together?
Yeah, sure.
That and the fact that we laughed our ass off. I mean, when we broke up, it wasn't beautiful. And we didn't talk for about 3 years. But then we just came back together because, we fucking love each other. And there's no one like us. We found, when you find somebody who's like a soulmate, like Allison's my soulmate, you don't stay away from each other.
No.
When you love someone, you love them. And we loved it deeply. But more than loving sex, it was more like, I love who this human was.
Yeah. We respect each other so much in that way, and we'll always have each other's backs.
And she loves Betty. I love her music, and she's a great songwriter. I put a couple of her songs on the L Word, and they're just great, and
I've got a lot more songs in me. And then we've recently collaborated as artists. We've always talked about it because she's always had Betty and I've had my projects and life going on. You know, I've collaborated with other people, but we never really did it. We never produced music together, wrote together, and then...
Well, I've always wanted to produce you. I've always wanted to record your stuff because it's so beautiful and great.
Thank you. And so we have a collaboration now, and we did a show that we got commissioned for by Dixon Place, and we've been writing that. And it's been, the thing is, we would sit down and just start writing, and then we would really bust a gut laughing, and that's when you just want to keep doing it. Very
few people make me squirt tears laughing. Amy, Allison, and Maggie. Those are the people. You know, when you're with somebody that you just let it all hang out and you just...
But then we have this shared history too, so we it's like a shorthand of humor as well. From the time we met that we described here, that time when we were watching The Harpist, it's never really changed since then.
No.
So we like that connect the fly on the wall.
And also you were Amy's roommate at one point.
Oh my God, yeah.
And
I did a play with Amy, her sister. When we broke up, I immediately did a play with her sister. So who does that?
That's fucked up.
I know, but it worked.
It was fucked up.
It was really
Let's go there for a minute.
And I wrote,
Amy didn't care. She's like, it's a play and I'm a star.
It was, well, you know what?
No, it was really good.
So this is what's interesting. So you continued with Betty, like you're on your own, you know.
But remember, I also did the L Word. So I was there for 5 years and I did my own stuff too. So,
but you continued, you know, you were on like your same trajectory.
Yeah, of course.
And what's so interesting is you're now a real estate broker here in Manhattan. How did you get into real estate?
Good question. Well, so the specifics of it are I was doing an off-Broadway show and I was like, oh, wow, this is going to end. And then I want to stay in Manhattan. How am I going to make this work? So I studied real estate for a couple of years and I wasn't out about that because when you're an artist, I didn't want the feeling of, oh, she's doing this because she's not acting anymore. So I developed a reputation as Maggie Moore. So I changed my name to Maggie Kent, like Clark Kent. And I said, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to tell
But your legal name is Maggie Moore.
Yes.
That's your real name.
That's my SAG name, everything. And that's the thing is I just created this double life and I learned the business. Plus my family was in the business back in Toronto. So I did grow up with it. Like all the women in my family, the matriarchs. So I knew it. And then I thought I'll give it a try. And I did my first deal in 10 days, which I gave myself a goal. And I said, I'm going to do this. And I either that or dog walking. And I was like, I'm going to go. And then lo and behold, it fit me like a glove.
What year did you start real estate in New York?
Gosh, that would have been before 2005. So it would have been around there. I was learning the business and working for a rental company. And then I got my license in 2005. So
here's my number one question about real estate. I was a big $1 Million Listing New York fan. Loved it. Like actually like a lot of my friends never liked that show, but I loved it.
Yeah.
And I know that like a lot of his like I know how they make that show, but I'm curious as a performer, is that ever something you thought, oh, this could be a way to combine?
It was a way. So I'm gonna open you up.
You were on $1 Million Listing?
No. So the first real estate reality show in New York was actually a show called Selling New York on HGTV. This is going back 2011. And I organically wound up on that show because my firm was approached and then they went inside the firm and they're like, oh, we'll pick this listing, we'll pick that listing. And they followed me around with a camera one day. And then lo and behold, I became a regular on that show and launched the show. And by the way, Frederick was on $1 Million Listing, was at the same company at the time. He recruited me to that company. So I know him and it was a blast. And then he got Bravo that next year and his partner, John, who was on the show.
John Gomes.
Yeah. Obviously, he left with Frederick because they're buddies and best friends. So they've gone on to do such incredible things. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so happy for them. He's a star because Frederick was always a star. And I thought he's going to write books. He's going to do it. And I remember being in the elevator with him and thinking, congratulations, because we had to leave our company because it was a conflict of interest for our show. I was on that show for several seasons. It was, again, very organic. Maggie Kent was, showing luxury property and it was very helpful.
But was there drama between the agents?
No, I never wanted to be.
I mean, granted, for what I don't know if you ever watched $1 Million Listing.
Oh, of course, yeah. The beginning of it.
They never interacted. Once every 3 years, Ryan Serhant and Frederick would be in a scene together. They really would film that stuff completely isolated.
Yeah.
This is the scariest conversation I've ever been a part of. I'm going to the bathroom.
Am I too intense about it?
She likes the show, man. No, I really like the show too. I really think the show did its thing for many, many years and spawned so many other shows.
But isn't it interesting there was never a woman on New York? In LA, there's Tracy Tudor, but did they ever... what's your firm?
Core Group Marketing. Core's been around for many, many years now. But that show, Selling New York, there were 3 companies they highlighted. We were one of them, and I was on that. So they revolved around these 3 companies, and the show had a shelf life. So it went on for 7 seasons or so, and then they could package it and sell it to other markets. So I always felt that was going to happen. And the show, to me, was HGTV. Their brand was not fighting and throwing drinks at people.
No, that's not what $1 Million Listing is.
No, I'm saying in terms of reality television, not like Housewives and all of that. But I love that you're a fan. And at the time when we did our show, I really do. I would just say, like, there are really, it's like an addiction, right? You get addicted to the show, and
you got really recognized from it too, and it was really fun.
Yeah.
It was fun to watch you.
I loved getting the story ideas together and the clients and doing the work because I was comfortable in front of a camera, right? Because I'm a performer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all of that, I will always.
She was a natural.
And isn't it sort of ironic that you go from acting to real estate and you wind up on television? Like, that to me was always like, there's my life, wanting to be on television, and then it winds up being in other industry, which was perfectly fine at the time, and it was really amazing.
And it's interesting how you said the last of the Industria parties were for Pride. And I want to kind of bring it back to Pride. So Betty just released the first single off your new album. It's actually a Pride anthem.
That it is, my friend.
Shout it out. Happy Pride. Clap your hands. Way up high. Shout it out. Love all the way. Love all the way.
So Pride now streaming. It's on Spotify, Apple Music. If you want to support these independent artists, you can buy it for $1 and change. They just go to your website, hellobetty.com. But what's the most memorable Pride experience you've had?
Oh my God, so many.
Good, bad.
I mean,
you guys play Pride live, the big stage. I know. I think, was that last year you did it with Christina Aguilera?
Mm-hmm. That's what we're doing it this year too.
Who's the big headliner? Oh, actually, I think it's Cynthia Erivo, who's playing Elphaba in the Wicked movie, and Adam Lambert. I'm pretty sure they're doing it.
Yeah, that's super fun. But playing in Buenos Aires and playing in Warsaw.
Oh, yeah, you've done Pride.
We've done Prides all over the world.
Prague Pride, you've done Pride all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so this song,
it's anthemic. If they try to stop us, time to rise, and it's let's love all the way. It's really about love. It's about standing for who you are. I think it's important now in America specifically, with all the transphobic crap that's going on in the government and in people's minds, and how people are really scapegoating trans people, and all of us coming together and being proud of who we are, and just saying it, singing it, dancing it.
I think even having Pride as a
and
Jew,
being Jewish,
Jewish, yeah, I think because
and not denigrating other people.
I listened to the song, and I think that it's not so intrinsically tied to
it's
gay.
not.
It's whoever you are. Be proud of whatever that thing is. You guys have a big show at Joe's Pub coming up May 30th. You guys are doing Hudson Pride for all the Hudson Valley gays.
Yes,
you guys are playing there mid-June. You're going to be playing Colorado.
Yep. Colorado Pride, Denver Pride. We're playing Denver Pride, and we're also playing a festival out there. Maggie's replaced each one of us, I think,
at some point.
At some point,
I met my wife by replacing Allison in Iceland. Iceland, I did a show in Iceland.
But you buried the lead of this whole.
What? I sure did. I did bury that. That's another show. That's another.
No, wait, no, quickly, because this is interesting. I don't know that. What?
I did. Amy called me up and said, "You want to go to Iceland?" And this was in April, and the show was in August. And I said, I was at work, and she goes, "Do you want to come?" And it's a free ticket to Iceland. Over 10 years ago, and it was Gay Pride in Iceland, and they were going for 5 nights.
National holiday, by the way.
National holiday, and it was so cool. So I said yes, and then
Allison couldn't do it because she had a gig.
Yeah, she had a gig, but she never misses gigs. Like,
But
it's,
they-
Allison's the bass player, by the way, and I don't play bass. So
So you sang.
yeah, I sang to track with these guys, but it was going to be to track anyway, probably, because it was.
It was like 5 or 6 songs.
And so how did you meet her? What?
Well,
she was in the
came to
crowd?
she came to the show, and I was signing autographs for myself, basically, because they thought I was in the band. I was a sub, and I met her after the show and at a VIP dinner. And we just connected.
She was living in Iceland?
Yeah, she's Icelandic and Swedish, and she was at the show, and we connected after, and we got together, and that's that. I mean, I married the woman.
Did she get a green card through the lottery as well?
No. Well, fortunately, in my lifetime, the marriage became legal, and we got married,
Yeah.
and we have 2 children now. Isn't that amazing?
That's an insane story.
I know.
Wow.
And that's my life. All of these life-changing things. Believe in destiny, because there's certainly, I wouldn't
And
be
they all
sitting
go
here.
back to Betty.
They all go back to Betty, and it does.
It really
and
does.
David Ramsden and Jane Siberry.
Yeah.
But I did want to tell you, because we were talking about shows, just to get this in. I'm doing
Yeah.
a show on June 28th. It's at City Winery in New York, and it's called The Stonewall Jukebox, a documentary concert, produced by my friend and written by my friend David Driver. And I'm one of the performers. Michael Musto's also going to be narrating, and a bunch of really cool artists. And basically, it's an event that's celebrating the Stonewall riots, and it's the songs from the jukebox that were playing that night in the club.
How cool.
Wow.
It's a
Yeah,
concert.
we were supposed to do it, but we couldn't.
Yeah.
We have a gig.
But if I can add to the whole thing about Betty, because I haven't given you props enough in this, and I want to say that the idea that Betty exists in the world is a blessing to us all, because they're 3 women who they came together. They are a force. They've played all over the world. They're 35 years strong. 38 years strong. They're activists. They're friends. They're women. They're so powerful, their presence when you see them perform. There's nothing like them. Every time I go to a show, I walk away feeling better and empowered, and they're funny as hell. And all of that means that if you haven't understood who these women are, please go and see them anytime you can. Know their music, buy their album, and it's going to be, it's like every time they do an album, it blows me out of the water of their originality and their force. So I just had to say that, my friend. I
That's
adore
so
you.
nice.
Yeah.
I love
Thanks,
that.
Maggie.
I love that.
I really love you. We love each other. Can you tell?
Yeah.
And where can people find you if people are interested?
In my music,
Well, or get an apartment, anything. Or if people just want to find you.
well, my company is Core Maggie Kent, so I'm easy to find that way. That's probably the best thing to do. I don't have a website.
And then that show at City Winery on the 28th.
That's a good place too.
And she's always going to be at Betty shows. So if you want to meet Maggie, come to the Betty show.
I'm the number 1 fan, just like
This
you're
has
mine.
been so great.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
How are you going to edit this?
Thanks, Jess.
Good question. Everyone can follow me, Jess X NYC. Follow Betty Rules on Instagram. HelloBetty.com for all the tour dates. You can also find tour dates at Betty Rules. And for Maggie Kent Real Estate. Thanks, guys.